Steve Blodgett was a 15-year-old from Stowe when he met drummer Peter Young and bass player Brian Lyford. They were 16. That was a long time ago.
Eisenhower was still president, and they told me about a singer, Mike, in Northfield, Vermont.
Mike is Mike Brassard.
And I remember the day I met Steve, and I knew right off I was dealing with something special. He knew more than 3 chords. Our very first gig ever was at St. John's Parish Hall. You know, we knew 4 songs. We were going on 5, and we just knew that if we just turned it up a little louder, they wouldn't notice.
Steve Blodgett started writing songs for the band, and in the spring of 1962, they recorded a few of them in Boston. 46 years later, the records still convey a manic energy that must have stood out in the pre-Beatles era, when most rock and roll was fairly tame.
Always there to say I care. Listen, baby, here's the score. I'm taking all I can and I would take no more.
We didn't want to, but we played really, really fast. We'd go into a studio and do a song, and we'd come out and say we failed because we went twice as fast as we should have.
In the early 1960s, live bands gravitated not to Burlington, but across the lake to Plattsburgh.
There was a big scene over in Plattsburgh then, music scene. There were a lot of bands over there playing because of the Air Force Base, and we started playing this venue called Rollerland over there. We became very wild as a band, and so when we hit the stage, they weren't ready for us. I mean, they had never seen anything quite like us because we weren't into doing steps and doing all that choreography.
Every Monday night in the summer of '62, Rollerland threw open its doors to the crowds who came to see a lineup of local bands in a weekly event called the Gigantic Rock-a-Rama. Mike and the Ravens played every week. One night at Rock-a-Rama, Brassard wrote a tribute to Rollerland, which the band never recorded until now. Back in that memorable summer of 1962, everything seemed possible to Mike Brassard.
We really had aspirations and dreams. I did, because socioeconomically it was my only way out. I knew college wasn't going to happen for me, and I knew I could sing, and I really wanted to make it in the business.
Summer was winding down, and high school, senior year, loomed. Up in Stowe, where songwriter Steve Blodgett lived, the community church had a loudspeaker system attached to a record player in its steeple, which it used to play chimes over the village. Then one night in early September, Blodgett and 2 other band members snuck into the church and put a Mike and the Ravens record on the turntable.
There was a 3-minute delay between the time that it clicked on and the time that the music would actually start, so it gave us 3 minutes to get out of the church and run across the little valley. We heard the needle hit the vinyl, and at that second, before anything started, we knew this is going to be loud.
The music woke the village, and once daylight came, it didn't take long for people to figure out who the culprits were. Justice was swift.
The judge, when at the initial hearing, said that you got a choice. You can go to jail, school, or service.
Steve went to prep school, and 2 of the guys stayed for a little while, and that was kind of the end of it.
Over the years, the memory of Mike and the Ravens was kept alive by a small group of rabid fans of early and obscure garage bands. One of them is Will Shade of Plattsburgh. A few years ago, Shade tracked down the band and urged them to return to the studio. Now, after a 46-year break, Mike and the Ravens are back. Mike Brassard says after all these years, a little recognition would be nice. But the real joy is in proving that he and his bandmates still have what it takes to make the same kind of wild music they did in 1962.
Gathering people in and saying, come on in, we'll let you in on this joke, this wonderful thing. Here we are at 65. We're going to blow the doors down. And in a way, we accomplished what we set out to do. And that, to me, is the payoff.